Let me just make a couple of quick comments and turn it over to Chairman Teaberry. And we also want to thank Dan Danner. We've enjoyed our working relationship. They, of course, speak for so many small businesses. And we'll just have a couple of comments and turn it over to the small business people. I'm of the view that it is a measure of how disconnected this town is to the real world that hours can be spent arguing about business tax reform while still leaving out more than 70% of the businesses in this country. They are the small businesses. And what we've got to do, if we're really serious about the kind of job creation that the country needs, is get this back to where it belongs, which is how we're going to, on Main Street, create the kind of pro-growth tax policy that's going to allow us to create more jobs. Before I turn this over to Chairman Teaberry, let me just make a couple of quick points. This issue is fundamentally about job creation. In the 2 years when Democrats and Ronald Reagan worked together in the 80s, our country created 6.3 million non-farm jobs. During the beginning of this century, over the 8 years when tax policy was just partisan, between 2001 and 2008, we created 3 million jobs. So what you see is when you have influential Republicans like Chairman Teaberry, who's been so gracious in terms of trying to make this bipartisan, bicameral, working with colleagues on the other side of the aisle, it can really pay off. And much of what was done in the 80s is just as valid today as it was then. And we learned this again in the Senate Finance Committee. What we need to do is get rid of some of these narrow special interest tax preferences, use those dollars to hold the rates down for everybody to have growth. And as Ronald Reagan and Democrats agreed in the 80s, we need to have progressivity. So we're anxious to hear from our small business folks today. We know that this is not going to be an easy task to take on all the special interests and want to prop up the status quo, but we think that the voices of Main Street and the kind of small businesses that are here today can beat the special interests when it comes to the question of job creation. And I'm just very pleased to be here with Chairman Teaberry, Dan Danner with two of their activist members. And let me just turn it over to Chairman Teaberry. We'll have him speak, and then Dan Danner will speak, and maybe Dan can give a little better introduction of your members. But let's hear from Chairman Teaberry now.
Thank you, Senator. It's great to be here on the other side of the Capitol, and not all senators are willing to partner with a House member, and so I appreciate the fact that we have had this working relationship and that we'll continue to work on trying to push comprehensive tax reform. And I'll just echo a couple points that Senator Wyden talked about. We learned this morning that about 10% of federal revenue is based upon corporate taxes, revenues coming in. And so while some in this town want to do corporate tax reform, which I believe is very important, I know Senator Wyden believes it's very important, it's important for our global competitiveness, leaving out the rest of those entrepreneurs and job creators is unacceptable. And we believe that highlighting, like we did today in the House, in my committee, the importance of dealing with those other job creators when we do tax reform and do comprehensive tax reform is vitally important. And today we have two folks on the ground who do this every day, deal with our tax code every day, and the man who represents the largest association of small business owners in America. And what we heard today is similar to what we've heard during the last campaign. I know Senator Wyden heard about it, and I've heard about it, and that is that our tax code needs to be fairer, it needs to be simpler, it needs to provide certainty to the job creators. And I'll let two of them talk to that issue today, but it came up over and over with all of our witnesses, both Republican witnesses and the Democrat witness this morning, those themes of creating certainty so businesses can invest and individuals can invest in more jobs, because that's what it's about. As the Senator said, this is about jobs. It's about building our economy up, just as was done in the 1980s. And so It's hard. We know it's hard, but it's been done before. It was bipartisan. It has to be bipartisan. The longer we wait, the more difficult it will get. But we both believe it can be done on a bipartisan, bicameral basis. That's why we're here today. That's why we're here to talk to some small business owners to emphasize the fact that this is about jobs, and you can't just do tax reform on the corporate side if you want to do job creation. And with that, let me introduce a former Ohioan, fellow Ohioan, the head of the NFIB, Dan Danner.
Thanks, Pat.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, I want to start just by saying how much I appreciate the efforts of Senator Wyden and Congressman Teaberry to talk a little bit about, if you're going to do tax reform, why it matters to not exclude small businesses. Small businesses are 50% of the GDP. They're 50% of the private sector employment, and they still create the most net new jobs. Most don't pay the corporate rate. 75% of small businesses are pass-throughs. They're subchapter S's, they're sole proprietorships, they're partnerships. They pay individual rates, not corporate rates. They also don't shelter money overseas. They don't ship jobs overseas. They pay their fair share of taxes, and they hire workers here in America. So I want to say how much I appreciate the efforts of the senator and the congressman to address the subject, to say we need to do tax reform, but we need to make sure that it also is good for small business. So thank you all, and thank the two of you. Yeah, let me have him introduce himself.
Good afternoon. Douglas Henry from Lebanon, Pennsylvania. That's our headquarters, with another facility down in Spartanburg and a joint venture over in the UK. And I echo Dan's appreciation. This couldn't be a hotter issue for our company. I'm the CEO of Henry Molded Products, a manufacturer of packaging products, and we're distinguished by the fact that everything we make is out of waste paper, recycled 100%. So we're going a little bit against the slow recovery, and we have the opportunities for significant growth. To that end, I'd like to share with you, Henry Molded Products is the perfect case study to punctuate what the congressman and the senator are doing now. And I echo our appreciation for our membership throughout the country, because it hits us right in our sweet spot at a very poignant time. In our case, we just finished putting in a new production line. We built an energy efficient building. We took advantage of the Section 179 depreciation opportunities last year, and thanks to the Congress's renewal of the tax opportunities from the Bush administration, it worked in the best way possible, and we'll do it again. We added 12 jobs last year. I don't see why we can't do it again this coming year. All we need is some continuity and some anticipated regularity in the tax code so that we can know where we stand and have some effective planning in the future. Small business, as Dan already said, is here to generate jobs, and we can carry us right through this recovery and into a more robust economy in the future. With that kind of continuity, we won't be so vulnerable to some of the recessionary impacts that we've had in the last 18 months to 2 years. So thanks so much again for bringing us here. It couldn't be better timing. Let me introduce my new best friend from Cleveland, Ohio, and he can affirm another point of view.
My name is Dennis Tarney. I'm the CFO and a minority owner in Lake Erie Electric. We do electrical contracting work in the Midwest region. Predictability, fairness, and simplicity is what we look for in tax legislation. Predictability so that we can plan. We can't be doing things that is retroactive, or we're not sure it's going to happen, or it's going to happen twice a year or every other year. We need to understand that the rules, the tax law is going to be in existence for a period of time where we can plan and invest in our business and in job growth. That's what we need. There's too many people, certainly in our area, that are unemployed. We need to get them back working. We need the American worker to continue working. That's what I want to leave as a message to our congressional leaders. Thank you.